I want to be cool like that, bro.
I know, man. I don't know.
Shout out to Long Cut. I think they're back on tour. I say that every time. I hope. I know they did. I'm just not sure what they're currently up to. But that's our boy JT from Long Cut. He's in the Marine Corps with me. We should just get his ass back on.
Yeah, he should, man.
Just to talk some shit.
He's been fishing. He's been doing all sorts of weird shit.
I've been sharing podcasts behind the scenes with like Eli and some buddies of like the ones that I watch.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, hey, man. The hell with this leadership thing.
I know, dude.
Like these guys, they're just talking about life and different stuff, dude. And it's so ripper.
We might have to throw this whole podcast in the trash.
Bro, those Jamaican guys that I shared with you.
Yeah, hilarious.
I could not stop crying.
What was their podcast called? We should give them a little shout out.
Isn't it something like Over 18?
Oh, man.
Man, I think it's called like Over 18 Podcast.
Really?
Because it's like a circle. Remember, it's like over, then the number 18, then podcast below it.
Here we go. This is rated 18 podcast.
That's
what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Christopher Savage and Kane Brown comedy. Really?
Yeah, but not the country singer. Don't get weird.
No, that's what I was asking.
Well, you see the guys on there, but like
that's why I was asking.
Uncle Percy, you can only
Brown.
see his hands. You can't see him.
Isn't Kane Brown kind of black?
Bro, what are we getting? Are we?
Is it?
We're going there right now.
I think
we have a different topic today, and now you're calling somebody kind of black, motherfucker. Listen to me. You're mixed.
There we go.
You're not kind of black. That's the most. Of course, you're Jewish. That's the most racist thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. Like, you're kind of black. Like, only black people get to say that.
Is it? Is it,
dude? I don't fucking know.
There we go.
We're gone. We're fucking canceled. So listen, get this while you can, guys. This will be our last podcast.
We're kicking off a new one for you.
Criminy. No, man, it's just fun, dude. Like, leadership is great. We love giving our 2 cents and everything that we talk about. We'll be talking some today about the week and some events and just thoughts that are in our mind. And it has everything. It's no drama. We don't mention names. I've got a couple people recently, that oh man, I felt like that was about me, or and it's like, well, if it speaks to you, let it speak to you. Yeah. Well, we don't speak unless we see a pattern. Today we're going to talk about equanimity and some things, and some people might think it's about them, and some of it might be, but it's also a pattern of just, we see it across the board too. Yeah. There is no, one person does something and then we just take that to the mic, right? It's not about that. It's about the patterns that we see, but it's also fun to just talk about life, bro.
It is, dude. Well,
we had that event yesterday, right?
Yes,
and you guys are talking all this science and fucking, you're gorilling or whatever. And then I tell that scale story.
Yep.
Oh my God, dude! Just
hilarious.
Getting people to laugh.
Yep.
And like, oh, Will thinks like all of us in the audience.
Yep.
Who cannot relate to super good looking shredded Eli. I'm like, yeah, no shit, right? Like, it was fun, but there's just so many things that you and I have experienced in our friendship, in life, that are just, dude, they're just balls funny, bro.
Yeah,
and we don't necessarily share a lot of that. We try to give, leadership pieces and things that can just help people in their business or their life. But you see these guys, and you're like, oh, we got that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and there's that whole other side to us in our relationship and our dynamic where that's the other half of our day, right?
Yeah.
In the sense of, man, we're locked on, we're dialed, we work. If we're not sleeping, we're working, right?
Yeah.
Like, and doing some variation of that.
And we love it. We love what we do. We're building what we're building. Like, that's just kind of who we are, man.
But there's this whole other aspect of fun and lightheartedness. We balance all of that out throughout the day with just fun and lightheartedness and laughing. And
here's a shortcoming for me. I think that's the Tosh in me a little bit. And I'm also self-proclaiming that. I'm not saying that he agrees that I have any. I'm sure he thinks there's a lot of him in me. I don't know. He's been in me. You hear that?
He's in me right now.
I think if there is something that's similar, like, how reserved he is with relationships and just moments, and I it's admirable. I think naturally with a lot of my fun or humorous or just timeless memories that you'll never forget, I almost don't share them on purpose.
Yeah.
It's like I really enjoy having that in that moment with that person, and that's my way of having intimacy within certain friendships, man. Is like, because you know this, Eli, you've known me for a long time now. Not everybody gets Will. And I don't mean that from a egotistical standpoint, like I'm a big fucking deal. I mean it from even when I was not on stages or not on anything, man. I don't let people into a certain degree. Not because I'm scared of you, not because I'm a fucking asshole, but because, like, coming from the Marine Corps and brotherhood, like, you got to go through a certain amount together before I have that with you. And then if I have a position of trust with you, as in if you're on our real estate team or I'm coaching you or whatever it may be, like, there's certain levels of responsibility that have to happen, and there's going to be certain levels of intimacy that don't happen for the sake of maintaining leadership and integrity to the role of me coaching you versus I'm your buddy. Doesn't mean that you can't have buddy elements to it, but man, I specifically reserve those things. And it's not like people I coach I'm not friends with. There's guys, man, that are like family to us, but they've been through a certain amount of relationship, trial, tribulation. They've improved themselves a certain amount. They have eaten shit when they were supposed to be eating shit amount. Like, and what it does is it develops a certain level of trust and intention. Don't tell me a fucking thing for 4 months when it comes to certain stuff, or 6 months or a year. Like, there just needs time to season true relationships. And if you're everybody's friend to the max, like Tosh would say, he had that podcast before, and I'm loose with this, but the example he gave is like, you know, if you walk around telling everybody you love them, what does that mean to the people you actually love? Like, what word do you use for them now? Like, should there be certain words that are reserved for people? I think so. I say love you a lot. Hey, man, I love you, man. I appreciate you. Because that's just kind of me. I'm just a little bit more outspoken. But I think where I display it is intimacy within friendships. And yeah, man, it takes a lot to get back and like, listen, you don't have to be that close with me. I'm not expecting you to be. I'm not a big deal. I don't think you have to be. That's just how I protect my circle. I'm a gatekeeper. If you get into my circle through me, you fucking better be a good person, man.
Yep.
Because it's my responsibility that I've brought you into this circle. So if I'm introducing you to Eli or anyone else or my family, it's like, you know, hey, that's on me now. I got to do my due diligence and making sure that you're a good person. And listen, all of you should think that way. You should be a lot more protective of your circle and who you let in. And, you know, it just takes time to allow for that. So I think naturally, when we're on this podcast and we're trying to give deliverables for life or business and just what we're going through, I tend to just go into that mode of just trying to articulate value there versus sharing things that are funny that I'm sure a lot of people would enjoy, that I think I naturally just reserve for just you and me going, hey, remember that one time? At 10:30 at night, DMing you some dumb shit and then going, hey, bro, remember that fucking time at PF Chang's? And it's like, would telling the world about that water it down to you and I don't know, probably not, but it's still cool that it's ours.
Yeah, it is.
And I appreciate that, right? I don't know, but seeing those dudes, I think the best thing I loved about those guys is podcast. Like when they're laughing, I think I literally texted you, dude, that's heaven, man.
It is, yeah.
These guys are in pure bliss in a moment, hysterically laughing at each other.
Yep.
Which is what real friends do.
Yep.
And you're just like, wow. You know, and like, hey, we have that.
Yeah, we do.
We just haven't really ever shared that. But man, that might be a shortcoming of mine.
I think, man, I wish, here's what I wish people could see, right? Because energy is fucking real and energy exchange is real. And if you could see somebody's like aura or the energy that was emulating from their body when they came into a room, man, I bet half you guys listening to this, you wouldn't have 3/4 of the friends that you have. Yeah. Right. Because you would see, if you could physically see it, you'd be like, oh, what the hell? Get that dude out of here.
Their thoughts or intent.
Where they're at all of it, dude. All of it, man.
Like, and the reverse of that, if you could see everyone else's, maybe you wouldn't be so overly worried about your shit because you'd realize how common it is across the board. You'd be so less insecure or worried about things, realizing how common, you know, certain things actually are. But it's just a Marine in me, dude. There's certain stories, there's certain moments you know, with guys, I don't mean fucking romantic war stories. I just mean just going through shit together, man. Like, there's something about my buddy Perry. I go to his wedding in Vail, right? And just sharing a moment, seeing him getting married. He's got his family there. But then those little inside jokes are like, hey.
Yeah.
You know, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. Like, of like, you getting married?
Yep.
But yeah, got it. Right? Like, just, it's like, man, that's just for us. But like, hey, man, like, I reserve that spot for you because of what we've been through together. I'm okay with that space because I trust in that space, you know, and it's earned. And it's not from a hierarchy, man. It's just from I've learned brotherhood. I've learned circles. And there's just ways to protect it, but there's ways to keep things, you know, intimate and
I think of that with like I don't know, like with Megan, right? Like my wife, like, man, if we ever broke up, like, you ever think about that? Like, if you guys ever split up, like, not in a bad way, but then like you're with someone new, but then like she comes like drop off the kids, and you're like, man, I'd still want to fucking hit that, right? Like, and you give each other a little look,
bro. Kate and I,
a little inside joke.
Had that conversation.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, we actually, Kate and I, super early on, you know, like like guys are idiots. I got it, right? We don't need to go down that road, but like, you know, so women have to just trust a certain level. And man, I remember it was like early on when we had first met, you know, or whatnot. And like, man, she had said something. I don't know. Long story short, she's like, I was like, hey, you can't say that to me. I think she like mentioned a breakup or something. I was like, you can't keep saying that to a guy like me. Because if that's what it is, then let it be that, but don't say that. She's like, and then she said something silly like, oh yeah? Well, so if I say it, it's that. And like, I knew she wasn't even being serious.
Yeah.
So she said it again.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, for real? And I was like, for real. And she's like, for real. I was like, for real.
Yep.
And she's like, okay, bye. And she fucking hung up on me. Or something like that, right? And then like, but then she's texting me and I text her back and I was like, yeah, hey, listen, I know we're broken up, but feel free to call or come over whenever you want. And like, we're literally still in this relationship for 2 weeks while we were broken up. And, you know, and just like, sometimes you just got to like allow people to express themselves and not be perfect within limitations. Right. But just stuff. So we've had those conversations before and they're funny. But there's trust, man, because dude, there's things that are in privacy. And I don't mean like anything criminal or weird, but there's just things in privacy, right, that you know about folks. And then, you know, hey, maybe they're not working with you anymore or something happens or whatever. You'll never get me to open my mouth about it. Nor do they. But it's like there was just a trust there. But typically with people that are like that, I don't really have any bad blood with a lot of folks, man. I don't know. But like, this is just like, and it's an interesting topic, man, because contrary to what maybe a couple people think, if they're listening to this, like, we've seen this pattern for probably 6 months. But then it kind of came to a head today, and it kind of came to a head yesterday with just a couple individuals, man, that are like, some don't have a point and are acting inappropriate. Some felt like they had a point, which is cool, have a point, but like the way that they're expressing it, just not good.
Amateur.
But then it's like, hey, like, that's all the equanimity you have? Like, something like this bothers you. You got no better frame of thought to give somebody benefit of doubt that it also couldn't be that. You think it's this, and then you tell yourself that story for 4 months to the point where it's now your reality, to then the next time you see that person in public or whatnot, in front of folks that are not only not involved, they don't even necessarily know everybody there. There's people I didn't know that were sitting there, and like, and it's that passive aggressive shit, brother. It's that, and to me, and I'm using this lightly, passive aggressive is one of the most cowardly things you can do. Like, bro, if you got something for me, take me out in the parking lot, kick me in the nuts, smack me in the face, and throw a fucking Biden shirt on me, okay? I take that over, I would take the passive aggressive, making sure I know something's wrong and everybody at the table knows something's bothering you and it has to do with me, but you won't say
without actually addressing it.
But you're making it clear through your actions and your attitude versus like, hey, we've been friends for 5 years,
Yep.
7 years. There's not enough benefit of doubt that this isn't what it is. And hey, come to mind, like the same thing I was apparently doing to you, you were doing to me. I just gave grace. It just boiled down, brother, to just communication and conversation, and then we're good. And it's like, hey, and I love that we're good, but what I would really love from the friendship is not have to be good in the way we had to get there.
Yep.
Because if you back me into a corner in front of people, I'm gonna make it known it's not okay. I don't care who's there, because I don't do it to you. Because I've been there before, and like we're gonna talk about that as well, right? Because like our buddy Gavin, right? Like when we were first in real estate, there was some things that were going on the LO side that just could have been better, right? And I remember calling Gavin a couple times, man. I kind of bitched him out about his team, and I had a great point. There was problems. He took it, got it. But then I didn't find, and this isn't necessarily passive aggressive, right? I'm not a coward. But that doesn't mean that the way I communicate was if I'm initiating the conversation, whether it's passive aggressiveness or I'm addressing a problem, there's a way to go about it, right? This was like the third time I had to like, quote unquote, fucking chew Gavin's ass per se. And then Gavin goes, you and I were out at showings, remember? And as I'm doing it, Gavin goes, hey man, I'm at a fucking birthday party with my kids Saturday. We'll talk later. Boom, hangs up on me. Now, a lot of people might think like, hey, dude, your fucking LO team is not doing a good job. This is messed up. I'm having to deal with it on my end. I don't care if it's Easter. And it's like, maybe. Or, man, that's the third time I've had that conversation. So I call him right back within probably 2 minutes. Gavin goes, Will what?
So he answered.
Oh, yeah. Because, you know, we're friends, man. We had been friends for a while at this point. We're friends. So I call him back and he goes, Will what? And like, dude, I'm right. It wasn't like I've never just bitched somebody out.
Yeah, there's an issue.
But it's not about being right. Like, you gotta. First of all, if you're wrong, we're gonna get to be you being wrong and having a fucking attitude. It's got to go. But when you're right, okay. But then you got to graduate from being right and going, okay, I'm right, but what am I trying to accomplish and how do I go about it? It's not just about being right. So you get a. And dude, I was still, you know, like our deals, they matter. They still matter. And this is my business and my, you know, and like what I didn't have was a ton of equanimity in real estate. I had it in the Marine Corps. I had it as a cop where I was comfortable, but now I'm an entrepreneur and it's like, man, I don't think you carry all of your equanimity or your stress mitigators over with you when you're in a new industry. You're like capable of them, but you're new to something, man. So, but he did that, and I was like, I instantly, brother, because I appreciate who he is for me. And I've been talking about this for years. You guys want to be in a better circle or a bigger circle or whatever. We always talk about the circle you want to be in and go be around them. You got to earn that fucking circle, man.
You do.
Because whether you're right or you're wrong, there's a way to go about it, and they won't do it. So I call him back like a minute later, and he's like, Will, what? And I think he answered because I did have a point with what was going on. And he cares about me. And I said, brother, I'm sorry. And he goes, thank you. And I said, let's talk about team structure and just kind of what's going on and how we could be better at that and where some of my frustrations are coming from. But I got to find a better way to communicate this to you. I can't always just be a hammer. So I'm not just apologizing to get my point across. Let's talk about it this week when there's time. Listen, brother, I'm sorry. Friend to friend, I'm going to find a better way to communicate this. Looking forward to seeing you this week.
Yeah.
We're still friends to this day, dude. And we're still close. And like, but dude,
that was probably a big pivotal point. Like that.
And it was fucking needed,
bro.
The
friendship could have gone either way.
You got to grow. You got to be better, whether you're right or wrong. At a point, you got to grow.
Yeah.
So I've exercised that for years, right? Like you've seen my growth for years. And I exercise that a lot in leadership where a lot of guys do a lot of things. But I'll express patience, I'll express vulnerability, I'll express kindness to bring their egos down, to bring their walls down, to bring their whatever they think they have to be down. And it's like, man, your kindness will be taken for a weakness. And you know, it's like I navigate the balance of like, When I was super hyper vigilant and assertive when I first got to real estate, here's one thing that never happened. No one was ever passive aggressive to me. I'm not saying I was right with how I communicated all the time, but one thing that never happened was anybody ever think that would ever be okay. Now, years later.
But that's out of a place of fear potentially. Yeah.
Potentially. I don't want to accuse anybody of being scared of me. You know. But now that I've just evolved for 7 fucking years of just being better at communication, better at leadership, and just getting in a wheelhouse, it's like I see those imperfections, I see those vulnerabilities, I see those insecurities in people, and I try to mitigate them by just being the most approachable, kind way of just expressing certain things, which I love, but it's opened the door to like, there's people that will then get so comfortable with you that they'll abuse that.
And I think also it's giving the opportunity for people to show you more of who they actually really are.
See, and that's why you and I are a great dynamic, because when you and I first got together, I thought people walked on you. Remember? I didn't say it to you rudely. I just hey man, do you know what they're doing? And you're like, yeah, I know what they're doing, and I'm just going to be done with it. You know, like, and because you and I work together and you're so much different than me in some aspects, you're similar to me with being cutthroat. You're similar to me with what you want to accomplish in business. Your approach is different, right? Like, if there's an analogy, you're like Greg Maddux. You're one of the best pitchers to ever play baseball, but you throw a lot of breaking balls and you don't throw hard fastballs.
Sure, yeah.
But you're known for breaking balls, and like Greg Maddux was one of the best pitchers ever, and it was all finesse.
Yeah, okay.
But then you got best pitchers ever that are known for throwing 104 miles an hour and have a good curveball, and they're intimidating on the mound, and like maybe I'm perceived more as that, right? You accomplish just as much as I do with strikeouts, just in a different way. But it's just as lethal. But what I do love about like your style, and like where I've adopted some of it, is you're right. Like the more you allow space for that, the more you're taking in observation of just how people behave. You know, like sometimes it's like, man, am I leading them down a road that I could prevent? That's why I've always tried to be on top of it. Because it's like, man, I like you, and I don't want you to go down that road, so let me just call it now. And like, you can't always, you know, do those things. But the biggest thing is you guys are growing your business, and it's like, man, I want it bigger. And it's like, well, you know, maybe you're a father or a mother, and you've got a life in addition to your business, or you have a job plus your side hustle plus your family. It's like, you got to understand how to manage and communicate and have equanimity. If you guys don't know what equanimity is, like, well, you're probably driving, listening to this and
I can
whatnot, so I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
All right. See who gets to it first. Probably Eli.
Boom. Got it. See thumbs, bro. Want me to read it? I got it.
Mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations.
That's right.
Right? Almost like equity on a home. Like you've got this buffer, you've got this reserve of like just being able to stay calm and tempered during stressful situations. And it's like, you got to do it, man. It expresses care. It expresses self-respect. It protects certain things. And, you know, for me, man, especially with people that I've allowed to be in at least my inner outer circle, man, there's no fuse for me. If you do it, I'm stepping on it right wherever we're at. And then we fix it or we don't move forward.
Yep.
But it's also because, you know, like Gary Vee is like, oh, expect nothing from anybody. You'll never be disappointed in life. Okay. Sure. For everybody I talk to on stage, you talk in front of 2,000 people and everybody thanks you for coming. And oh my God, you were so inspiring. This changed me. Like, don't expect shit politely. Yeah. If you're in my inner circle, or what I would call maybe like an outer inner circle, right? Like, not that I'm degrading anybody, but like you got your inner circle of 5-6 people you see. Then you got like another 10 to 12 that you probably talk to or coach on a regular, and they're there and you're vulnerable with them, but they're not necessarily your closest 3 or 4 or 5 people, right? But they're still in there, man. Like I do have expectations of you.
Well, and because they're kind of like paying you to have and hold them accountable,
whether I'm coaching you or not,
of
right?
course.
Like I have expectation of certain things, but the interesting piece, brother, is like, I feel like it's the one piece because you and I have talked about this for years, right? Like I butted heads with a buddy over cornhole before. We talked about it. you know, and I didn't appreciate kind of how it went, and
it's not the game, guys. It was like other stuff, not just the game, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to get into it. It's between him and
but just not so that
and that's not the point of this podcast to call anybody else. So you'll never hear me fucking name drop. You know, and it was like I thought a long time, like could I have handled this a different way? Could I handle it a different way? And like, you know, man, like I kind of got offended. Not necessarily anyone's fault. It could have been internally. But Eli, you hear me get called, oh, Will, you're just a good guy, man. Like you wear your heart on your sleeve. You're a good guy. You're a good guy. You're so caring. You're so caring. But then someone will do something to me, and I'm like, especially if they're coming from like my military friends world, right? Mm-hmm. It's probably a shortcoming of mine. But then I start thinking like, yo, did you just do that to me? Because you think I'm just this big, nice guy that wears my heart on my sleeve, and I'm such a nice guy that I'm so non-threatening that you can then do something to me that'll be acceptable? Like, are you that fucking complacent? I do want to snatch you up and fight you, and maybe you can beat me up. It's not about who wins. It's about you understanding that that's never going to be acceptable to me.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like, maybe I vented on social media within a couple of days of that happening, and that's where I made a mistake. I should have respected the friendship enough not to, and I didn't mention anyone's names, but still, I should have just, where I made, I think my mistake is I had to get it out, and it was fucking, and because I do kind of tell a lot of stories on social media, it just, that's where I let it go. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's where I could have made the improvement. Yeah. But as far as what I was feeling, no. That, you know, it's like, let me remind you guys, like I'm sitting here with a bunch of real wolves. Mm-hmm. You know the guys I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. This is not fucking playground football, buddy. Yeah. These are real dudes. And it's like, yeah, I don't ever want, and like, but then the flip side to that coin was, where I had some growing to do was, Will, why would you ever think that I would attack you in a manner that would make you feel like you would have to stick up for yourself? Yeah. And you're like, yeah. But here's what happened, man. 2 weeks went by, and I bought some beers, and I went up there. Yeah. To talk to him, and we worked it out, and I owned my shit. Mm-hmm. And after that, man, we were probably bruised for about a year. Mm-hmm. But I made effort to further the friendship and show that I cared. As did he. Yeah. We couldn't be better today. Yeah. But that bruise had to heal. And you could tell there's a real relationship there. And you can tell it's earned and it's real, because if it's real, you do have to heal. Mm-hmm. You do have to give it time to get back to where you were. You know, like there's things that just have to happen to solidify the accuracy of it versus we just, forgive and forget. It's like, nah, I think we say things like that. But we work through it, and we're better than ever, right? But like, I don't ever like, and I'm good to grow with him because of who he is. Yeah. If you haven't earned that with me, if I haven't earned it with you, like if we're not inner circle, there's not going to be as much forgiveness given to certain behaviors. No. It's actually going to get you kicked out the fucking door, because it's like, hey man, I'm not there with you. Yeah. And we haven't established that. And if you're already, after I've given this much time of grace or understanding or communication and vulnerabilities to create the opportunity for you to learn how to do it better. Yeah. And not only do you choose not to, but you express yourself a certain way to where now I feel, man, I don't care what topic is on the table. If you come at me a certain way, we're not talking man to man. You're not talking to me as a man. And we're going to have to fix that. And then I'm going to have to make it uber fucking clear. Unacceptable. Mm-hmm. Right? Unacceptable. Mm-hmm. That's one thing, whether it's in privacy or not. Like it or not, opinions or not, the way I deal with men will not be the same way I deal with women. Mm-hmm. Now, regardless of men or women, if you do something in public, I'm going to reprimand. I'm going to confront what you're doing, because like, dude, if there's one fuse I don't have, it's that one. And it's because I've also given it. I give grace and understanding and etiquette the best that I can. And it takes a lot. I know what it takes to give grace and benefit of doubt. I know what it takes to, if I can't talk about it right this second, but I'm in front of those people, to still support and be there for them, and to not make things weird, and then to talk to them when it's appropriate, versus this passive aggressive stuff. And like lately, man, it's not just one person. There's a handful of where we see it, but there's been a couple people a little bit more close that have expressed that. And I'm like, man, I don't know where that's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been something that's had to get navigated lately, you know?
Yep. I feel you, man. Well, it's getting around a lot more people, right? It's having more conversations like that. Yeah. And, you know, especially for men, like it's challenging, like talking to a real leader, right? It's challenging having someone challenge and you get all these like things that are coming up as that they've probably never fucking dealt with.
I don't know.
Guys are bad at dealing with shit anyway.
I agree. But like if you've had months and months and months of me having conversations and grace, and like I've been the one to initiate conversation with you to just really, and you know what I'm getting at, just patience and displaying certain things.
A mature, logical person would
you still have to hold a line.
That. You do. You have to have equanimity.
Because people can, and again, people can get so comfortable. Like for example, Gavin, when I was like bitching on the phone the first time about real stuff, he let it happen. He took it. He let his team hear it. Mm-hmm. And one of his teammates was like, hey, why would you let Will talk to you like that?
Yep.
He said he was right.
Yep.
What do you mean? He's right.
100%.
I got to take it.
That's maturity.
But then it happened a second time. And it's just like, okay, Will, whether we're messing up or not, buddy, you got to adjust. And he hung up on me. But because it mattered, I'm like, man, let me own it. But listen, I had a point.
Mm-hmm.
However, I had to get better at expressing, because it's like, hey, Will, what's your goal here? To just bitch people out till they just never return your calls? Or is it to mitigate what's going on but express frustration?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to find a better way to do it. If you don't have a point, like if you're at fault or if you're in the wrong and you're still being passive aggressive,
that's just the immaturity
it's not
part.
Dude, it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take it.
Yeah.
And you got two things to work on. You got to work on ownership.
Yeah.
Right? Like you got to own your shit. Secondly, you got to figure out real quick what's important, why it's important, and like, hey man, I don't care who's in your circle or who's allowing you to behave a certain way. Like, it's not happening here, you know. But like, dude, coming from the world that I come from, within the Marine Corps, and Marine Corps infantry and police work, and what's required of you to keep you and others safe, and just the fucking dogs that are in that pool.
Yeah,
like you don't think Marines fight?
Oh, I'm sure.
You don't think Marines want to be better than each other? You don't think Marines want to fucking test each other, bro?
I'm sure.
And then when you're on the street as a cop, like you don't think fucking guys can't wait to see if you're complacent?
I'm sure
you don't think fucking criminals on calls that you don't know is a criminal yet because 6 people are on scene and you only know the name of the person that called 911. You don't fucking know who that guy is sitting right now. Like you don't think they want to test you, bro? So the guy you got to be, the girl you got to be, the person you have to be in those environments. You know, like when I was first growing with you, I was a little reluctant because I didn't want to lose who I was. And then as you grow and as you mature, you realize, man, you're not losing who you are. You're just being more well-rounded and you're being more appropriate to your new environment of leadership.
Yeah.
And that's no longer your environment. However, I do think there's an element to, I'm only going to remove that to a certain extent.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's still going to be some of that that's ingrained in me. That's not going anywhere. That doesn't need to get mitigated. That doesn't need to get walked on.
Yeah.
That if you fucking step on it, man, I'm going to let you know about it.
Yeah.
And man, you and I have talked about this for probably a year, maybe a year and a half. That's the one part. Like I'll give grace. I'll give whatever I need to. But if I get certain things in return, there's no fuse on it. But it's like, man, that's the part I'm okay with.
Yeah.
It's like I'm still going to be okay to protect my circle, protect self-respect, or just protect who I am as a fucking man.
Yeah, those are values.
Not because you're necessarily a threat to me, but I just need to let you know, like, there's going to be a certain level of respect that we should reciprocate to one another.
Those are values, yeah.
Period. And listen to me. If I'm your coach and you ask for this, you have to understand the nature of that and where you got to grow as well. That's right? True. But the point is, like, you can be both. You don't have to be this fucking tough guy walking around with all your insecurities, acting like you're something, being too worried about communicating or being vulnerable, or just talking to other men about what's going on. Same thing with women, right? But at the same time, just because you do give some of that up and you're adequate, doesn't mean that you're going to lose this other side of you. But you just got to find how to be well-rounded and forged amongst all qualities of communication while still standing up for yourself when needed. But guys, girls, respect yourself, represent yourself well. Respect your circle, represent your circle well, and just be the best version of yourself that you should be. If you fuck up or make mistakes, own them, If you're seeking a circle, be a value to that. And if you're in a circle, protect it from others and just really try to be a little bit more, man, what do you call them? Like the word, just critical of yourself, just self-aware.
Yeah, self-aware.
And just more open to taking responsibility for your fucking actions, man.
I like it.
I like you.
I like it. I like you. Appreciate you guys listening today.
He's like, oh, is Will going to get into it? Last story for another day. We love you guys.
That's right.
Listen, this comes from a place of care. This isn't me trying to be some tough guy on this mic, but it's like, you guys got to understand self-respect and respect for others, and you got to carry yourself as such. Happy Friday, brother.
Happy Friday, guys.
We're out of here.
All right, day $1.0. We out.
I'm a